right, so welcome now to our chapter on the Big Three. Now, we're going to get into some movement. Now, we've been talking about the structural anatomy, we've been talking about how we're analyzing, we've been talking about the psychology, but now at this point we're going to get into what is the real system. And the real system, of course, is going to be several extremely strategic exercises that we're going to be doing, and we're going to be doing them every day, and they're going to be targeting exactly the anatomy that we've been talking about so that we are going to be having our pain-free life as soon as we start this program right here. And this is really what we could call the nuts and the bolts, okay? So this entire chapter is going to be dedicated to all of the actual physical exercises that are going to be part of our system. And this first lesson is what I'm going to simply call the overview. Okay, so as we go through the system, and I'm going to be teaching you the secret system that we have here, we're going to have something that I'm going to call the Big Three. Okay, now the Big Three, what is the Big Three? The Big Three are the three most important parts, three most important exercises that are part of our system. Now, these are all going to be exercises that are going to be targeting a similar muscle group. Now, I think hopefully by now you remember that we have an anatomical, structural situation. We have a pelvis, we have the hamstrings, we have when the hamstrings are tight, the pelvis is not rotating. And all of this is happening in the environment of our back pain. And the real secret within our system is that when we are able to target and isolate the hamstrings, it's going to have an effect on the pelvic rotation, and that is going to be why you are pain-free. So, the Big Three is going to be three main exercises that we're going to be really focusing on. Now, there's going to be more than three in the long sequence videos that we provide. There's going to be a few extra poses and exercises that we're going to actually be talking about as well. But I really want to emphasize, like I say, these Big Three. Okay, so now what are the Big Three? The first of the Big Three is something that we call dog, and we're going to be demonstrating them in a minute. Okay, just so we can introduce them, and then each lesson after that is going to isolate each one of these exercises so that you can really see the details. Okay, and then at the end we're going to do a lesson that's called putting it all together, so you can see really how to sequence this. If you don't want to use one of our videos and you want to do this by yourself, of course that's going to be available to you. Okay, so we have these Big Three, and we have one called dog. We have another one called warrior, and then we have another one called pull on your straight leg, which is a really eloquent name, I know. Okay, so let's look at them real quick, okay? Let's take a look at this one that we're going to call dog, okay? So let's come up here in the front, and this is right in front of me, it's fine. Dog, please. Okay, so just as we look at dog, and we're going to look at all these in isolation, and we'll be looking at transitions and everything in a minute, okay? But I just want to just give this overview here of what is dog. Now take one leg off the ground, okay? And this is our dog, okay? Now, it might start with both legs on the ground for a moment, but the actual dog is going to always have one leg off the ground like you're seeing here, and then the bottom leg being straight. Okay, now this is going to be, as I'm suggesting, one of our Big Three. All of the Big Three are going to have the same intention. All of the Big Three are going to really have even the same mechanism, which is going to be isolating the straight leg, whatever leg is straight. We're going to isolate that straight leg. We're going to isolate the hamstrings. We're going to be opening up the hamstrings. And then, of course, every few breaths, go ahead and switch legs. You know, obviously, as you're doing these exercises, we're always going to be doing both sides, okay? So we're isolating a hamstring, we're opening that up, and in doing so, and of course, in most of these exercises, we're also strengthening the body, okay? So we're doing two things. We're number one, opening the hamstring, which is going to have the strategic effect on the pelvic rotation, but the real other thing is that we are strengthening the body and doing a lot of other benefits more than just this. Okay, but this is the key. Okay, so let's have Lusana come down. have her sit here next to me for a moment. And let's talk about the next of these big three. So the next of the big three is called warrior. Okay, now warrior is going to have a similar, as I'm suggesting, intention, which is going to be focusing, isolating the hamstrings through the application of a straight leg exercise. Okay, now warrior 3 is going to be different. It's not going to be based upon the floor. It's going to be a standing exercise. And that's important because between this dog and this warrior, you really only need to pick one. Okay, so these are the big three, but the fact is you can pick one, either this one that we've just shown you called dog, or you could choose this one called warrior if it happens to be that the dog is not an accessible exercise for you at this point. Maybe your body type or your strength levels are not tolerating a pose or an exercise like dog, no problem, you'll be using the warrior. Okay, and at some point you're going to get stronger, your body will transform, and maybe dog will become accessible. Okay, well let's look at warrior. Let's look at this second of our big three. Okay, and let's see what we got here. Now with warrior, we're going to always be using a wall. Okay, so hopefully you're doing this, these secrets program in a room, okay, then that will have a wall. Now, in a very similar way to what we saw with dog, what we're interested in doing is opening up what we call lengthening the hamstring muscle group. Okay? The hamstring muscle group, as you know now, and you know very well, it's coming from the back of the leg attaching on the sitting bones. And the way that it's always going to be, we could say stretched or we could say opened, is through the use of a leg being straight. And so the way that we're always going to be applying this is through a straight leg. Okay, and now of course when we're doing something like warrior, we're going to be changing sides, so she can of course bring one leg down and then bring the other leg up, and that's how sides would change. Okay, always using the wall, always focusing on this leg being straight, and of course in the context of these kinds of poses, we're also very much interested in using our core strength. Okay, so as we look here at warrior exercise, we have a straight leg, we have a strong leg, we have a strong core, a strong abdominal muscle zone, and we have an experience of a stretching feeling in the back of the leg. Okay, so this is our introduction here to this warrior exercise. And now, let's have a seat here, and we'll talk about the last one. And this is an overview and sort of an introduction, and we're going to be going over each one of these exercises in more detail, which will be a bit of a review for some of the stuff that we're already mentioning, and then of course we'll be taking it to a bit of a more detailed degree. All right, so we've covered two so far of the big three. We've covered dog exercise, we've covered warrior exercise, and as I suggested, because they're highly related in that they're both exercises that are directly targeting one hamstring group at a time, that if the dog is not an accessible exercise for you due to arm strength reasons or any number of reasons, then you will choose warrior. And if you can do both, then that's fine. You would, of course, do both. Well, now there is number three. And number three really is kind of in its own league, because number three can be done anytime. Number three can be done before bed. It can be done lying down on the ground, anywhere, because number three is really something that anyone can do anytime, and that's why I really, really think it's a critical, valuable part of our system here. So what's number three? Number three is when you're lying on your back. Let's see if we can show it here. So you're going to lie on your back. And once you're on your back, and we'll talk about how to come up and how to come down in further lessons, but in this case we're just showing exactly what these things, what these exercises are. Now oftentimes you're going to be using something like this. Now this is a strap, but it could easily just be a rope, it could easily be a belt. Now notice that when we're lying down here on our back that our knees are bent, and this is going to be a very important thing to as well consider that we'll be discussing soon enough. which is that we're never going to want to lie down with our legs straight, always going to want to lie down with our knees bent, as one of the most commonly made mistakes that we make with back pain. Anyway, let's check it out. Let's take one leg off the ground, and you're going to make sure that one hand is on each strap or on each side of the belt. A belt works just perfectly, even the belt that you wear to work. Okay, and then once this leg's off the ground, then the other leg can come straight to the floor. And then at this point, the entire exercise, the entire action is to flex this foot and pull it towards your chest and feel an experience of opening and stretching in the hamstring group once again. So, and the entire time we're doing other practices like relaxing our jaw, not moving our eyes, breathing through our nose. And if you can use that breath that I taught you in the psychology section, inhaling for 6, suspending for a few moments, exhaling for 6, that's a really nice thing to do here as well. Okay, so this is the third of our big 3 called pulling the straight leg. And that will be fine for now. We're going to be looking into all of these now individually through the next lessons and seeing any more details that we can cover and making sure that they're all clear. Okay, and then we're going to put it all together and make a nice video that shows you how to really do it in your daily life. So this is very easy for you and very practical. So you're going to be pain-free, surgery-free, and drug-free forever, starting very soon if you're not already.